Go.
Hey, my name's Joe,
Hi, Joe.
and we're going to talk about action potentials today. As with most biological processes, we've got this wonderful graph here. We're going to start with a 5-step process. The first one is a simple resting potential. The second one, depolarization, leading past a threshold to a rising phase. Then they're just going to fall back down by a falling phase, a little bit of an undershoot, and back to resting phase again.
All right, first we're going to look at the neuron and its external environment. So we have, first of all, we have ungated potassium and sodium channels and gated sodium and potassium channels. The ungated are always open. They're also known as leak channels because they're always leaking ions in and out. And the gated channels open and close in responses to large enough changes in the membrane potential. And so at a resting state, or just in general, the inside has a higher potassium concentration and the outside has a higher sodium concentration, kind of like a salty banana. If you want to see one of those be eaten, look at Group 1's video. And the ratios for the sodium and potassium is about 10 to 1.
The first stage of action potential is the resting state. At the resting state, sodium and potassium gated ion channels are closed. The resting potential is maintained by ungated ion channels in the sodium-potassium pump. There are two potassium ions in for every 3 sodium ions out.
The second phase of an action potential is depolarization. At this point, a stimulus causes some of the sodium gated channels to open while the potassium gated channels remain closed. So there's going to be an inflow of positive sodium ions here, which are the blue dots. So as they come in, it's going to cause the inside of the neuron to become more positive, thus decreasing the membrane potential, as you can see on point 2 or section 2 of our graph right here.
Step 3 is initiated by step 2, and step 3 is called the rising phase. And what happens is the gated ion channels open from depolarization, causing the Na+ to come in. And when that happens, it causes the membrane potential to rise. And if the membrane potential rises high enough, -55, that's the threshold, and that causes more ion gated channels to open, which causes more inflow of Na+. And that causes a raise in membrane potential for step 3.
Stage 4 is the falling phase. Sodium-gated ion channels become inactivated and potassium-gated ion channels open, allowing K+ ions to rush out of the neuron. This results in repolarization of the neuron.
The fifth phase of an action potential is the undershoot phase. At this point, well, that's right here on our graph. At this point, the sodium-gated channels remain closed, and that's because we're in the refractory period, which is a period of time immediately after an action potential where the membrane cannot undergo an additional action potential. And so, in this phase, the sodium-gated are closed, the potassium-gated are closing, which is why you get that little swoop in here. And so once everything's closed, the membrane returns to its resting potential thanks to the ungated channels and the sodium-potassium pump.